The sky above the city of Lyria was unnaturally calm that morning. Even the wind seemed to pause, holding its breath. Children played in the streets, their laughter echoing off the stone buildings, unaware that their world was about to change forever. No one noticed the silver streaks cutting across the horizon, glowing like molten metal in the sun. Eliora, a young pilot in the Lyria defense fleet, squinted toward the sky. She had always had a knack for noticing the small details, the patterns others overlooked. "That's not a meteor," she muttered to herself, her voice trembling slightly. Her hands gripped the railing of the observation tower as the objects descended faster than anything naturally possible. By the time the first ship landed in the central plaza, chaos had erupted. The craft was colossal, almost organic in shape, pulsating with an eerie blue light. The crowd froze, and then came the voice, a resonance that vibrated directly in the minds of every human present. "Humans, we are the Orith. Submit, and your species may continue." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of inevitability. The Orith were a warlike species, known across galaxies for conquering entire star systems. But humans had never faced anything like them, and they certainly hadn't been ready. In the control room of the Lyria defense fleet, Eliora met with Commander Kale, a man whose face was lined with the stress of decades in service. "They're scanning for weaknesses," Kale said grimly, "looking for patterns in our behavior." Eliora swallowed hard. "But humans don't have patterns like that. We improvise. We adapt." Kyle's eyes flickered with hope, though he tried not to show it. "We'll need that now more than ever." Outside, the first wave of Orith, soldiers descended, towering over humans, moving with terrifying precision. Their weapons pulsed with blue energy, cutting through steel as if it were paper. Civilians scattered, and the military responded, firing everything they had. Lasers, missiles, and plasma cannons tore into the alien armor, but the Orith barely slowed. It was in the chaos that Eliora saw something extraordinary. Amid the panic, ordinary humans, children, shopkeepers, teachers, were doing things that machines could never predict. One man grabbed a burning child from the street, dodging an energy blast in a way no algorithm could calculate. A mother led a group of strangers through an alley, using shadows and instinct to outmaneuver their pursuers. "They're improvising," Eliora whispered. "They're unpredictable." Kale nodded, his mind racing. "That's it. That's the tactic they can't beat. Humans don't just follow orders, they feel, they adapt, they fight with everything they are." As the day stretched on, the city became a battlefield not of mere weapons, but of ingenuity. Humans created traps from rubble, used mirrors to redirect energy beams, and even formed impromptu alliances with one another. It wasn't organized military strategy. It was something more primal, more profound. Eliora led a small squad through the crumbling streets. Her heart pounded with fear and exhilaration. Each step was a gamble, each decision a spark of life in the darkness. They used the environment against the Orith, collapsing bridges, sudden floods, and smoke that confused the alien sensors. By nightfall, the humans of Lyria had done something no one thought possible. They hadn't defeated the Orith entirely, but they had slowed them. For the first time, the invaders hesitated. The aliens' analytical mind struggled to understand the chaos, the unpredictability. They had faced countless civilizations, yet never one that could think so differently, so fluidly. Eliora stood on a rooftop, looking over the city. Fires burned in the distance, but the lights of human ingenuity shone brighter. She clenched her fists, feeling a fierce surge of pride. "We may be small," she whispered, "but we are alive. And that's something no one can calculate." Far above, the Orith commanders communicated, their voices cold and metallic. "Humans, they are an anomaly. Adapt, anticipate, but they are unlike anything." Below, humanity moved as it always had, messy, chaotic, unpredictable, yet alive in a way no machine or alien could ever truly grasp. And for the first time, the invaders sensed the unyielding spirit of a species that refused to be tamed. The battle had only begun, But the humans of Lyria had already revealed a truth that would echo across the stars. There is a tactic no alien could ever master. A tactic born not of logic but of heart, courage, and imagination. The night in Lyria was alive with whispers not of fear but of defiance. Fires burned in the streets, and shadows danced across walls scarred by energy blasts. Eleora crouched, behind the rubble of a collapsed building, her eyes scanning the horizon. The Orith patrols were relentless, yet they moved with a rigidity that humans had learned to exploit. "Eleora, over here," called a voice. It was Joran, a young engineer who had turned his workshop into a fortress of improvised weapons. His hands were smudged with soot, and a faint smile flickered across his face despite the chaos. "I've rigged the old waterworks to create a pressure trap. We can flood the eastern alleyway and slow them down." Eleora nodded. "Good. But we'll need more than traps. They're fast, too fast." Joran's eyes lit with determination. "Then we fight the way humans always have, together, using our minds." The two of them sprinted across the crumbling plaza, dodging pulses of blue energy that seared the air with heat. Around them, ordinary citizens were becoming extraordinary. A baker hurled flaming barrels to block a path. A group of students coordinated a distraction using mirrors and broken glass, redirecting enemy sensors. It wasn't military training. It was instinct, creativity, and courage intertwined. As they reached the waterworks, Eleora felt something that no strategy manual could teach: hope. Each human act of defiance sparked another, forming a chain reaction that the Orith could neither predict nor contain. The humans' unpredictability became their weapon. Joran worked quickly, twisting valves and rerouting water while Eleora kept watch. "Do you think we can really stop them?" she asked quietly, her voice barely audible over the roar of the city. Joran didn't answer immediately. He wiped sweat from his brow, then smiled. "Stop them? Maybe not today, but we can make them hesitate, we can make them question. And that is something no alien has ever faced." Eleora's heart swelled with a mixture of fear and pride. The Orith had conquered planets, crushed civilizations, but never had they met a species that fought with both mind and spirit, that wove chaos into strategy. Suddenly, a pulse of energy slammed into the plaza, sending rubble flying. Eleora and Joran dove for cover. Above, an Orith commander emerged from the smoke, scanning with a predatory gaze. It was tall, armored, almost regal in its menace. "You cannot win," it spoke, voice resonating in the minds of every human nearby. "Resistance is illogical." Eleora's pulse quickened, but she did not speak. Instead, she gestured to Joran, who released the flood. Water surged through the alley, sweeping over the Orith soldiers' legs, short-circuiting their equipment. The commander stumbled, unsure of how to react. The humans seized the moment. Civilians and soldiers alike launched coordinated strikes. Some improvised, some daringly reckless. A young boy rolled a barrel that toppled a drone, while a seamstress tangled an Orith soldier in fabric ropes. Chaos became the battlefield, unpredictability their shield. Amid the tumult, Eleora felt the bond of humanity more strongly than ever. She saw fear and bravery intertwined, strangers helping strangers, parents shielding children, friends risking everything for one another. The Orith may have had strength, speed, and weapons, but humans had something deeper, a unity born of emotion, of love, of hope. By dawn, the first wave of the Orith had been slowed enough to reconsider their approach. They regrouped, scanning the city, trying to understand the strange organic patterns of resistance. The humans of Lyria, exhausted but unbroken, gathered in the shadow of a collapsed bridge. Eleora looked around at the faces lit by the rising sun, faces marked by soot, fatigue, and determination. "We're just beginning," she said softly. "They may be stronger, faster, but they will never understand us." Joran nodded, rubbing his sore shoulders. "They can calculate probabilities, predict movements, but they cannot predict heart. They cannot predict courage, and they cannot predict the spark of humanity when it refuses to bow." Far above, the Orith fleet communicated in bursts of light and sound. These humans, their chaos is unquantifiable. Our tactics fail. Adapt. Again. Adapt. Eliora's gaze hardened. She knew the next battle would be worse. But she also knew something no alien weapon could destroy: the fire of the human spirit. The very chaos the Orith feared was the lifeblood of humanity, and in that fire Lyria found its first spark of true resistance, a resistance born not of order or technology, but of something far more powerful: the human heart. The city would burn. The night would scream, and yet somehow humans would endure, because they did not just fight with weapons. They fought with creativity, hope, and the unpredictable courage that no alien mind could ever conquer. And for the Orith, that realization would be their first taste of defeat, a defeat of understanding, a defeat of certainty, a defeat that no amount of technology could repair. The city of Lyria bore the scars of war, yet in its streets life stirred stubbornly. Smoke curled from collapsed buildings and the air smelled of ozone and fear. But Eliora walked among the survivors with a purpose stronger than fear. Every face she passed told a story of endurance, of refusal to yield, of humanity rising in the shadow of annihilation. Commander Kale met her at the edge of a shattered square. His uniform was torn, dust clinging to his gray hair, yet his eyes shone with a clarity born of necessity. "Elira," he said, voice low. "They're regrouping faster than we thought. Their next wave will be coordinated. This isn't just a raid, they're adapting." Eliora clenched her jaw. "Then we adapt faster." Her mind raced, recalling every trick they'd used, every impromptu tactic the humans had invented over the past 24 hours. "We're unpredictable. That's our weapon. But we'll need more than traps. We need strategy that grows from instinct, not just logic." Kyle nodded. "Then we fight like humans always have, using our hearts to guide our hands." The next day brought a terrifying clarity. The Orith returned, their movements more synchronized, their weapons more precise. Entire streets were encased in pulsing blue fields, cutting humans off, isolating them. Panic surged, and yet in that fear humans found their courage. Eliora led a small team through a narrow alley, the walls charred and crumbling around them. Among them was Lyra, a schoolteacher who had taken up a makeshift spear. Her hands shook, but her eyes burned with resolve. "We won't run," she whispered. "Not now." As they moved, Eliora realized the Orith weren't just trying to kill, they were trying to impose order. Every maneuver they made was precise, calculated, designed to suppress chaos. And yet chaos was humanity's ally. They turned the battlefield itself into a weapon. A stack of overturned carts became a ramp for sudden attacks. Broken pipes carried fire, smoke, and water in unexpected directions. Shadows masked movement. Streets became mazes, and every human action seemed to grow in brilliance under pressure. Elira's heart thumped as they encountered a squad of Orith soldiers blocking their path. The soldiers moved in perfect formation, predicting standard human reactions. But the humans had learned to anticipate the anticipation. With a cry, Lyra leaped from a shadow, striking the nearest alien with improvised force. Another human rolled a barrel that crashed into the group from the side. The soldiers faltered, unprepared for the layered unpredictability. Above them, the Orith commanders communicated frantically. "Adjust. Recalibrate, humans. Cannot be predicted." Their voices held a rare tremor, the first sign of fear from a species that had never known it. Amid the fighting, Eliora caught sight of a child trapped beneath rubble. Her instincts took over. She dashed toward the debris, ignoring the soldiers, the blasts, the danger. The humans around her provided cover, improvising shields from doors, crates, and rubble. Every small act of bravery multiplied. Every human decision was a puzzle the Orith could not solve. When she freed the child, the boy looked up at her with wide, terrified eyes. I thought I'd die." Eliora knelt, brushing soot from his hair. "Not today," she said softly. "Not today. Humanity always finds a way." By evening, the Orith had retreated to the city outskirts, regrouping in confusion. Their logic-driven minds could not comprehend the ebb and flow of human emotion, courage, and intuition. The humans, exhausted and battered, stood together, a mosaic of resilience and hope. Elira walked among them, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over her shoulders. She realized that victory would not come from overwhelming firepower, nor from flawless strategy. It would come from the spirit of every individual, the willingness to act when fear demanded retreat, to create when chaos demanded surrender, to love when hope seemed impossible. Commander Kale approached her, his voice grave yet proud. They've underestimated us. But this is only the beginning. They'll strike again, harder. But so will we. Eleora looked out over the horizon. The sun dipped below the broken skyline, casting long shadows over the city. Then we show them what it means to be human, she said. Every act of courage, every choice made with heart, it's a weapon they can never wield. And it's ours. Lyra joined them, holding her spear tight. And together no one can break us. Far above, the Orith fleet pulsed with energy, calculating, analyzing, failing to grasp the truth staring them in the face. Humans were not merely a species, they were an enigma. Unpredictable, adaptive, relentless. And in that unpredictability lay their greatest strength. A force that could not be copied, quantified, or destroyed. Eleora closed her eyes for a moment, letting the weight of the city's spirit flow through her. Each flame, each shadow, each heartbeat was a testament to a species refusing to be tamed. And in that refusal, humans found a power no alien intellect could ever understand. The next battle was coming. But the humans of Lyria, ordinary people wielding extraordinary courage, were ready. They were more than survivors. They were the embodiment of unpredictability, of creativity, of heart. They were human, and that was a tactic no alien could ever beat. The city of Lyria never truly slept. Even in the dark hours, its streets were alive with movement. Humans scavenging for supplies, patching defenses, sharing whispered plans. The Orith had pulled back, but the reprieve was only temporary. Eleora knew that each calm moment was an illusion, a lull before the storm. She met with Commander Kale and Joran in the remnants of the city hall, its marble floors cracked and its glass windows shattered. The room smelled of dust and sweat, but within its walls, human determination hummed like an unbroken chord. The Orith are adjusting, Kale said gravely, spreading a map across the floor. They're learning from yesterday. They'll try coordinated strikes, ambushes, but they still can't predict human improvisation. Eleora studied the map, tracing the lines of alleys, collapsed buildings, and rivers that now flowed with debris and fire. We need to use that unpredictability strategically, she said. We need to turn the city itself into a living weapon. Not just traps, people, ideas, courage. Every human action can be a strike. Joran nodded, his eyes bright with invention. We can rig entire districts with signals, alarms, and diversions. Humans can act like pieces on a chessboard, but pieces that move themselves, that decide their next move based on instinct, emotion, and survival. Kyle exhaled slowly. Then it settled. Tonight we teach them a lesson they'll never calculate. Tonight humanity becomes the weapon they cannot comprehend. As night fell, Lyria transformed. Fires were positioned not just for illumination but as signals. Smoke patterns created confusion in the Orith sensors. Civilians were armed with improvised tools, ropes, metal scraps, even simple kitchen knives. But each act was amplified by courage and creativity. The city itself became a living, breathing network of resistance. Eleora led a strike team through a narrow corridor, their footsteps muffled by rubble. Among them was Lyra, the schoolteacher whose courage had inspired countless others. Her eyes were steady now, hardened by the reality of war. Remember, Eleora whispered, they can anticipate patterns, but they can't anticipate heart. They can't anticipate the human spirit. From the rooftops, humans dropped nets and debris, creating barriers. In the streets, small teams engaged the Orith in hit-and-run tactics. Each strike was unpredictable, each retreat calculated on instinct rather than protocol. The aliens advanced, but with every step, they encountered resistance they could not quantify. In the heart of the city, Eleora confronted an Orith commander, its armor glinting in the firelight. It moved with precision, striking with calculated strength. Yet Eleora didn't fight with raw force. She fought with unpredictability, weaving, dodging, and striking at angles the Orith could not anticipate. Nearby, civilians created distractions, children rolling flaming barrels, shopkeepers throwing improvised explosives, students using reflective shards to blind sensors. The Orith faltered, their movements jerky, uncoordinated, their confidence shaken. Amid the battle, Eliora caught sight of a small girl trapped in a collapsed stairwell. Her pulse surged. Without hesitation, she dove into the rubble, lifting beams and debris, her hands raw and bleeding. Behind her, the Orith commander hesitated, unprepared for such defiance. "You cannot save them all," it intoned. Eliora froze, sweat dripping down her face. But then she looked into the eyes of the girl and something ignited within her. A clarity no alien calculation could understand. "We fight for every one of them," she shouted. "Every life is a defiance you cannot measure," the commander faltered. In that moment, humans surged forward, pushing the boundaries of improvisation and courage. A coordinated chaos erupted, a symphony of unpredictability. Civilians became warriors, warriors became legends, and the Orith began to retreat under the weight of a force they could not quantify. By dawn, the city of Lyria was scarred but unbroken. Fires still burned, smoke hung thick, and the streets were littered with debris. Yet the human spirit remained untamed. Eliora stood on a rooftop looking over the city. She felt exhaustion in every fiber of her body, but also a profound pride. "They'll come again," she said softly. "But they will never understand us. They cannot. We are alive in ways they cannot calculate, and that is our greatest weapon." Joran joined her, his face smeared with soot but smiling. "We've done more than survive tonight. We've shown them the impossible, the unpredictability of humans, and that is a power they will never overcome." Kale's voice came from below, steady and unwavering. "They will strike again. But humanity is not just a species, they are a force, and tonight we proved it." Above them, the Orith fleet pulsed with frustration, unable to comprehend the phenomenon that was human resilience. They had strength, speed, and technology, but they lacked the spark that burned in every human heart, a spark born of love, fear, hope, and defiance. Eliora looked at the rising sun. The city stretched below her like a battlefield and a home all at once. She knew the next battle would be worse, but she also knew that humanity had revealed its greatest truth. Even in the darkest hours, courage, ingenuity, and heart could turn chaos into power. And that was a tactic no alien could ever beat. The Orith had withdrawn from Lyria, but their presence still loomed like a shadow across the planet. The city was quiet now, but only in appearance. Beneath the rubble and smoke, humans were regrouping, repairing, and preparing. Eliora walked among them, her uniform scorched, her hands bleeding, yet her gaze sharp with determination. "We cannot just wait for them," Commander Kyle said, his voice low and urgent. "They'll strike again, faster, harder. If we only defend, we lose. We must go beyond Lyria. We must take the fight to them." Eliora frowned. "To their ships?" Kyle nodded. "We've learned they fear unpredictability, but they are still calculating. If we can strike at their vessels, at their command structures, we can force them to face chaos in ways they've never imagined." Joran, leaning against a battered wall, scratched his head. "It's risky, but humans have a way of turning risk into advantage. Improvisation is our battlefield, and right now their ships are predictable. We can exploit that." Eliora felt a surge of resolve. Humanity's strength was not in sheer power. It was in their ingenuity, their courage, and their refusal to surrender to fear. If they struck now, the Orith would face something entirely new. Resistance that could not be measured, anticipated, or defeated. The humans began preparations. Engineers rigged old cargo ships with explosives and improvised weapons. Civilians volunteered to navigate dangerous corridors aboard the alien crafts, using their intuition to strike at weak points. The city became a hive of activity, each action feeding into a larger, unpredictable strategy. Eliora led the first team toward the Orith docking bay. They moved through the shadows, hearts pounding with adrenaline and fear. Every step was a test of courage, every turn a potential trap. Yet among the humans, she felt an unshakable certainty. They were alive not merely because they fought, but because they refused to yield to logic and fear alike. As they approached the alien ships, the first wave of Orith fighters detected them. Blue energy beams cut through the darkness, precise and lethal. But humans were not predictable. Civilians used debris to redirect energy, creating smoke screens, leading the Orith into traps of their own creation. Eleora found herself face to face with an Orith lieutenant, its armor gleaming in the flickering light. It struck with mechanical precision, but Eleora did not respond with strength. She responded with unpredictability. She dodged in ways no algorithm could anticipate, using momentum, shadows, and instinct to outmaneuver it. Around her, humans became a torrent of creative defiance. A group of students released a cloud of reflective shards, blinding sensors. A teacher diverted energy beams using improvised mirrors. Civilians set controlled fires that forced the aliens into narrow corridors where the humans struck with precision born of courage. Jorn's voice crackled through the comms. Eleora, the central ship's hull is exposed. If we can breach it, we can disrupt their command chain. Eleora nodded, rallying her team. Everyone now, strike where they least expect it. They surged forward, a wave of human determination and ingenuity. Explosions rocked the docking bay, alarms blared, and the Orith scrambled in confusion. For the first time, they faced an enemy that refused to follow predictable patterns, an enemy that could adapt mid-action, an enemy that wielded heart as a weapon. Inside the central ship, Eleora moved quickly, her team following. She saw the Orith commander coordinating attacks, their mind racing to calculate human behavior. But the humans did not act logically. They acted emotionally, instinctively, unpredictably. Every strike was a question, every decision a riddle the Orith could not solve. Finally, the central ship shuddered under the impact of explosives and coordinated human sabotage. Lights flickered, energy fields collapsed, and the Orith crew staggered. Eleora stood among the chaos, breathing heavily, sweat and soot covering her face. "This is what they cannot fight," she said, her voice carrying above the roar. "Chaos born of heart, courage, and spirit. This is humanity." The Orith retreated once more, their fleet battered, their confidence shaken. But the humans did not exult. They had tasted victory, yes, but they understood the cost. Streets were destroyed, lives were lost, and the battle was far from over. Yet, in every injured soldier, every weary civilian, every hand that reached to help another, there was a single truth: humanity would not bow. Eleora stood atop the remains of a destroyed docking bay, looking at the retreating Orith ships. Her heart ached for those lost, yet burned with fierce resolve. "We are unpredictable," she whispered. "We are alive in ways no enemy can calculate, and that is our greatest weapon." Joran joined her, a mixture of exhaustion and awe in his eyes. "We've done more than strike back," he said softly. "We've shown them that humans are impossible to break." Kale's voice, steady and commanding, echoed across the rubble. "This is just the beginning. They will return, yes, but now they face a reality they cannot control, and that reality is us." Eleora looked up at the sky, where the Orith fleet vanished beyond the horizon. She felt the weight of responsibility settle over her shoulders, but also a fierce pride. Humanity had taken the fight to the stars, and in doing so they revealed a truth no alien intellect could ever master: that courage, ingenuity, and heart could be a weapon more powerful than any technology. And that was a tactic the Orith could never beat. The city of Lyria was a ghost of itself. Buildings lay in ruins, streets twisted and fractured, fires still burning in patches. Yet among the devastation, humans moved with purpose, repairing, scavenging, and preparing for what was coming next. Eleora walked through the remnants of the central square, her uniform tattered, her face streaked with soot and exhaustion. Every step was heavy, yet each heartbeat reminded her that humanity had survived, against odds that no logic could justify. Commander Kale met her at the edge of a collapsed plaza. His eyes, weary yet unwavering, followed the horizon. "They're returning," he said. "They've learned from their mistakes. They'll strike harder. But so will we." Eleora clenched her fists. "We've done everything we can, but how much can we risk? How many more lives must we put in danger?" Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. Every human action carries risk, but courage is not measured by safety. It's measured by choice, and we choose to resist. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the Orith returned, their ships darkening the sky. Their movements were precise, almost surgical, designed to crush resistance quickly. Yet humans had evolved beyond predictable strategies. Every street, every alley, every ruined building became a labyrinth of possibility, a living testament to improvisation and heart. Eliora led a team to intercept an advancing squad. Among them was Lyra, the schoolteacher turned fighter, her eyes sharp and fearless despite the chaos. "We can't hold them forever," Lyra said, gripping her makeshift spear. "But we can make them understand. They can't predict us. They can't control us." Eliora nodded, feeling the weight of leadership and responsibility pressing on her. "We fight not because we expect victory, but because surrender is not an option. Every act of defiance matters." The battle began with a storm of energy blasts and explosions, shaking the ground beneath them. Humans moved unpredictably, striking from shadows, improvising traps, and using every ounce of ingenuity to counter the Orith. Civilians became heroes, their actions improvised but devastatingly effective. Yet the cost was clear. Screams echoed through the streets, and Eliora felt each loss as if it were her own heartbeat faltering. She saw friends fall, their courage unbroken even as life slipped away. And in those moments, she understood that humanity's strength was inseparable from its vulnerability. Every act of bravery carried a price. Every choice bore consequence. Joran appeared at her side, carrying an injured comrade. "We can't stop them completely," he said, voice tight with emotion. "But we can show them. We are more than weapons and numbers. We are unpredictable. We are alive." Eliora's heart ached as she watched another squad of Orith soldiers advancing. Yet she drew strength from the humans around her, the injured, helping each other, strangers forming chains of protection, voices shouting encouragement across the battlefield. This was the unquantifiable power the Orith could never overcome, the heart of humanity. In a desperate maneuver, Eliora led a group into the Orith command ship, navigating a maze of corridors rigged with improvised explosives. Each step was perilous. Each decision carried the potential for death. Yet she pressed on, driven by the certainty that humans had something no alien mind could grasp: courage born from empathy, hope, and defiance. Inside the ship, Eliora faced the Orith commander once more. Its form loomed intimidating and precise. "Your species is illogical," it intoned. "You will die because you cannot predict yourself." Eliora stood tall, her voice unwavering. "We are not meant to be predictable. We are alive. Every choice, every risk, every act of courage, that is our weapon. And no machine, no alien can ever defeat it." With that, she triggered the coordinated explosives, creating chaos in the heart of the ship. Humans surged forward, striking in unplanned patterns, their courage overwhelming the precise calculations of the Orith. Explosions rocked the corridors. Alarms blared, and the Orith faltered, unsure of how to respond to a force that acted with heart rather than logic. Outside, the city of Lyria trembled with the echoes of battle, but humans stood together, battered yet unbroken. Eliora looked at the survivors, feeling the depth of sacrifice and the height of courage. Every life lost had mattered. Every act of bravery had turned the tide in ways the Orith could never predict. Kale joined her, his expression solemn but proud. "They will return," he said quietly. "But now they face a truth they cannot overcome. They cannot calculate the strength of humanity." Eliora gazed at the horizon, the night sky painted with the aftermath of battle and the glimmer of hope. "We fight because we must," she whispered. "Not for glory, not for victory, but because we are human. And our heart is a force no enemy can ever conquer." Far above, the Orith fleet pulsed with frustration and confusion. Their technology, their precision, their centuries of conquest, all faltered in the face of something they could not understand. Humans were unpredictable, adaptive, and fearless in ways no calculation could anticipate. And in that moment, the humans of Lyria understood something fundamental. Survival was not enough. Their defiance, their courage, and their unity were the true weapons, and the Orith would never overcome them. Eliora closed her eyes, feeling the weight of every sacrifice, every life, every heartbeat. Humanity was battered, but it was unbroken, and that was a tactic no alien could ever beat. In a desperate maneuver, Eliora led a group into the Orith command ship, navigating a maze of corridors rigged with improvised explosives. Each step was perilous. Each decision carried the potential for death. Yet she pressed on, driven by the certainty that humans had something no alien mind could grasp: courage born from empathy, hope, and defiance. Inside the ship, Eliora faced the Orith commander once more. Its form loomed, intimidating and precise. "Your species is illogical," it intoned. "You will die because you cannot predict yourself." Eliora stood tall, her voice unwavering. "We are not meant to be predictable. We are alive. Every choice, every risk, every act of courage, that is our weapon. And no machine, no alien can ever defeat it." With that, she triggered the coordinated explosives, creating chaos in the heart of the ship. Humans surged forward, striking in unplanned patterns, their courage overwhelming the precise calculations of the Orith. Explosions rocked the corridors. Alarms blared, and the Orith faltered, unsure of how to respond to a force that acted with heart rather than logic. Outside, the city of Lyria trembled with the echoes of battle, but humans stood together, battered yet unbroken. Eliora looked at the survivors, feeling the depth of sacrifice and the height of courage. Every life lost had mattered. Every act of bravery had turned the tide in ways the Orith could never predict. Kale joined her, his expression solemn but proud. "They will return," he said quietly. "But now they face a truth they cannot overcome. They cannot calculate the strength of humanity." Eliora gazed at the horizon, the night sky painted with the aftermath of battle and the glimmer of hope. "We fight because we must," she whispered. "Not for glory, not for victory, but because we are human. And our heart is a force no enemy can ever conquer." Far above, the Orith fleet pulsed with frustration and confusion. Their technology, their precision, their centuries of conquest, all faltered in the face of something they could not understand. Humans were unpredictable, adaptive, and fearless in ways no calculation could anticipate. And in that moment, the humans of Lyria understood something fundamental. Survival was not enough. Their defiance, their courage, and their unity were the true weapons, and the Orith would never overcome them. Eliora closed her eyes, feeling the weight of every sacrifice, every life, every heartbeat. Humanity was battered, but it was unbroken, and that was a tactic no alien could ever beat.